Would you like to do a makeover to your picture frame for your painting? To embellish the frame for that picture you like so much? Or renew one found in the flea market? You are in the right tutorial. We will show you 2 options to create the perfect frame. Stay with us. International Products Taya explains how to do it. Picture frame makeover with imitation gold leaf. The materials you're going to need are 1 International Products Taya imitation gold leaves kit. You can find it at www.tayagoldleaf.com. We have a variety of kits according to your needs. 1 wood picture frame. 1 primer, both water-based and oil-based. 1 sandpaper grid size 60 or 80. 1 sandpaper grid size 100, 120, 150, and 180. Wood filler as optional. To choice: 1 water-based clear lacquer or 1 water-based acrylic. 1 oil-based clear lacquer or 1 oil-based acrylic. Equipment: 1 gilding brush, 1 cleaning brush, 1 camel hair brush, 1 bag of cotton tow, 1 safety cutter knife, 1 chisel as optional, several pairs of nitrile gloves, several small containers, cardboard to protect the work surface. For the finish: 1 oil-based universal tint bottle, 1 water-based acrylic vinyl universal tint bottle, 1 white flat or matte water-based vinyl acrylic paint bottle, 1 oil-based wood stain can, 1 turpentine bottle, 17 ounces of gasoline. Let's start. Step 1. Working on the damaged surface. 8 by 10 inch picture frame. The picture frame we selected has several damages. It's scratched and mistreated. That's why we choose to give it a complete makeover. Let's start using a chisel to remove all the figures of the frame. In general, these are made from resin or a paste called compounder. With a 60 or 80 size grit sandpaper, remove the first old coat paint in the frame surface. Now, use 100 and 120 grit sandpaper. Immediately, to get a smooth and thin fine surface, use 150 grit sandpaper and finish with 180 grit sandpaper. If you find any imperfection or a crack, you can repair it with a wood filler. Apply and let it dry. Then sand the repaired part. Step 1. Working on the damaged surface. 16 by 20 inch picture frame. This picture frame has several visible damages. It's scratched and mistreated. That's why we selected it for a complete makeover. Let's remove the old coat paint with a 60 or 80 grit sandpaper. Next, use 100 or 120 grit sandpaper on the surface. Now, to get a smooth and thin surface, use 150 grit sandpaper and finish with 180 grit sandpaper. If you find any imperfection or a crack, you can repair it with wood filler. Apply and let it dry. Then sand the repaired part. Step 2. Applying a primer or a wood sealer. In this step, we are going to apply two different types of paint for wood. One is oil-based, and the other one is water-based. For the oil-based primer, we can apply a red ochre, black, or yellow ochre. For the water-based primer, we can apply a red ochre, black, or yellow ochre. To apply both the oil-based and the water-based primer, we can use three types of brushes: a camel brush, a normal brush, or a general use brush. If you want it, you can also use a paint spray or a spray gun. For our 8 by 10 inch picture frame, we will use a black prime water base coat for wood. Once the first base coat is applied, we wait for it to dry completely. The time varies depending on the painting brand. With the base coat dry, take the steel wool grade number 2 and rub it against the frame to obtain a smooth surface. Remember, this steel wool is included in our kits and you can also buy it at International Products Teo online store. Apply a second water-based primer coat to cover the wastage generated on the previous step and improve the quality of the surface. Once the second base coat dries, rub a steel wool grade number 1 or grade 0 against the frame to obtain a smooth surface. To end this step, we must apply a clear water-based acrylic or a clear water-based lacquer. You can use any of these two options. We are going to apply a water-based acrylic. For the 16 by 20 inch picture frame, we will use a red ochre prime oil-based coat. The use of oil bases usually bring better qualities. If you find any imperfection after the application of the base coat because the oil-based primer evidences the defect, you can repair it with wood filler. After the application, let it dry and sand the repaired area. With the oil-based primer coat dry, take the steel wool grade number 2 and rub it against the frame to eliminate the rough and obtain a smooth surface. Apply a second oil-based primer coat to cover the wastage generated on the previous step and give body and quality to the surface. Once the second base coat dries, rub a steel wool grade number 1 or grade 0 against the frame. Remember, this activity has the objective to get a nice, smooth and thin surface without imperfections, making a professional work. As we mentioned with the example of the previous frame, we must apply a clear paint of the last base coat. In this frame in which an oil-based primer was applied, we can use either lacquer, varnish or an oil-based acrylic. We will apply an acrylic clear oil-based to conclude with this step. Step 3. Application of the Tayo adhesive on the picture frame. In this step, we will use our Tayo adhesive, which has a contemporary water-based formula and is included in any of our kits. Our adhesive has a different application methods, using it at 100%, or from 90 to 70% adhesive and 10 to 30% water. Also, we are going to use our special cloth to apply adhesive size and the nitrile gloves that you will find in our kits and in our online store. Let's start. In our 8 by 10 inches frame, we will apply Tayo adhesive at 100%. Also, we can use a 90% adhesive and 10% water. You can choose from these two options. We can use a paintbrush and a cotton wool. The main purpose is to leave a film of the layer as thin as possible. As a tip, we recommend to rinse previously the special cotton wool in water and drain it very well, almost dry. This will eliminate loose strands of the fabric. As a result, we have a cotton wool ready for work. We take our cotton wool and soak it with our 100% adhesive. We always apply in the same direction. The cotton wool should leave a completely covered surface. We can use the brush in places of difficult access and disperse the adhesive with our special cloth, always considering getting a very thin layer without excess, drops, bubbles, and spills. Another option is to apply the adhesive at 90% and 10% water, so can easily get dispersed and much better handled, obtaining a thinner layer. It is recommended when the weather is warm. In either case, the adhesive is ready in 30 minutes to continue with the next step. It is recommended that you wait for a couple of hours. For more information and recommendations, consult our video tutorial specialized in the application of the tallow adhesive. It is not necessary to press yourself, hurrying to stick on the imitation golden leaves to the frame. The tallow adhesive will remain sticky for 36 hours. We will use another process in our 16 by 20 inch picture frame, as we mentioned, with our special cloth to apply adhesive size preferably previously rinsed in water and almost dry. We will first apply the 100% tallow adhesive in all the area, and then we will remove all the excess with the cotton wool rinsed and squeezed into 80-70% adhesive solution and 20-30% water. Remember, you must always work in the same direction. You will need to work quickly to perfectly cover the entire area, make a thin film, and remove excess, drops, bubbles, and spills, obtaining a better finished product when placing the gold leaves. In both frames, it is recommended to use our special cotton wool, since in many occasions the bristles of the brushes leave marks. To improve your technique and get detailed information, see our video tutorial of application of tallow adhesive. Step 4. Application of the tallow imitation gold leaf. Take the package of the imitation gold leaf sheets from the kit and the pickup leaf tool. Before the application, put on the cotton gloves. Open the package of the gold leaves. It is important to use the cotton gloves, because the direct contact of the leaf with our fingers damages it. This is due to the sweat or contaminants that we can carry, producing overtime spots and already applied leaves. Place one of the pickup leaf on top of the imitation gold leaf, and then, with the other one, tap gently. This generates a light air that throws the imitation gold leaves upwards, being able to take it with your thumb and the other pickup leaf. Now, place the gold leaf in the frame with the help of the pickup leaf. Slide it along the contour of the surface figure. Be sure to place the second leaf overlapping the first one. International Products tayo kits have the exact amount of leaf sheets to meet your needs depending on the surface to be golded. There are packets with 25, 50, 500, and 1000 sheets. Check out our online store for the approximate measured coverages and followed prices. You can use the cuttings or skewing of the imitation gold leaf to fill the areas that were not covered by the multi-level surface or small faults. With the help of a brush, you can specify the placement of the imitation gold leaf to cover the very deep areas. You may need more than one leaf. You can push the leaf firmly where necessary with the cotton wool and or gilding brush. As you can see on the 16 by 20 inch picture frame, is the same procedure for placing the imitation gold leaf as the previous one. Always ensure that with the velvety part of the pickup leaf slide, the sheet always following the contour of the figure. Because if you just place it on top, it will break in some areas when applying or pushing it with the cotton wool, and you will have to use more leaves to cover perfectly the surface. In both cases, wait about 5 minutes before continuing with step 5. Make sure the surface is perfectly golden. Step 5. Imitation gold leaf excess removal. With a special cotton wool included in our International Products tayo kit, press the leaf against the frame and start rubbing to remove the excess, always in the direction of the overlapping of the leaves to prevent them from detaching, tearing, or skewing edges from being pulled away at the joining. Once the surplus is removed, use a brush for greater precision in areas of difficult access and greater cleaning. The so-called cleaning brush is recommended. After completing the previous work in our 8 by 10 inch picture frame, we take the wax and spread a little on the cotton wool, avoiding excess. We must make sure to disperse it well and that it is a small amount of wax. Then, we apply it by polish the frame. The wax is used for the elimination of leftovers, leaf joints. It is used to burnish and seal the surface, obtaining also a greater brilliance. With a 16 by 20 inch picture frame, we do the same as in the previous example with our special cotton wool. Press the leaves against the frame and remove the excess in the direction of the overlapping, and use a brush for areas of difficult access and greater cleaning. We take the wax and spread a very small amount on the cotton wool. We must make sure to disperse it well. In addition to what was mentioned in the previous example, the application of wax also helps to prevent damage from the chemical reaction caused by water oxidizing the imitation gold leaf, and by contact the subsequent products, making sure to obtain professional finishes. The cotton wool we offer has an ideal texture to apply the adhesive and softness to rub the wax. Step 6. Finished and effects. We will use these products to reach a beautiful finish. We will use an oil-based universal tint, turpentine, water-based universal tint, or oil-based wood stain, gasoline, a steel wool, a cotton towel, a cotton wool, and a safety cutting knife. Take your 8 by 10 inches frame. In this step, we will use the safety cutting knife to make a cut simulating the size and distance of the average of a sheet of approximately 5.5 inches on the golden surface, taking as reference the center of the bottom of the frame. With the knife, make the cuts vertically where the index and thumb fingers indicated the ends of the 5.5 inches. The cutting distance can also be made proportionally depending on the size of the frame. Perform this operation on all sides of the frame. Spread the wax on the cotton wool and then polish the surface of the frame. This process seals, settles, and gives a certain effect to the cut line. With the help of a brush, you must apply a layer of oil-based lacquer. This has the purpose of protecting the imitation gold leaf by the application of subsequent chemicals or oil-based solutions, and avoid landslides, stains, and oxidation. Next, we will make a mixture called patina in many places, using burnt umber, oil-based universal tint, oil-based black universal tint, and turpentine. It is also possible to combine wood stain and a bit of oil-based black universal tint. In both preparations, you get a patina and they look very similar. Let's test how the mixtures applied to the frame look. Use the mixture that gives you the finish you want for the frame. We can also add a little more of the ingredients of the mixture. We will use the first mixture. We put a small amount of the mixture of tints and turpentine on the cotton toe. We determined if we like the finish, and if so, we will go ahead and apply it on the rest of the frame. Once the whole frame is covered, let it dry a little, so the mixture works on the frame. To remove excess, we can use a new cotton toe, or the one which the sample was applied. To clean the stain, we can also use a new cotton toe and turpentine. All depends on how clean we want the finish of the frame. We'll leave a few minutes to dry. We clean our frame depending on how we want the finish. If we want to give more shine or stand out more some parts of the frame, we add a minimum amount of turpentine to the cotton toe and polish the area that we want to highlight with its brightness. All this is in order to lower the brightness of the leaf, or give it a tone more similar to genuine gold, or simply give it an older or more elegant finish so that our frame looks beautiful. We are now going to place a model texture to our frame. Place a little wax and mix it with a small sample of the tints preparation. Stir with a cotton toe, which will be impregnated with the new mixture. Having the mix ready, we begin to pass the cotton toe with a light tap through the frame and where we want to model texture. In case of excessive modeling, or if you no longer like how it looks in a specific area, you can remove it with a cotton tow and a little bit of turpentine. Now, let's work on the 16 by 20 inch picture frame. We are going to make a finish in which we will intentionally cause a surface fault to simulate an antiquity and that the red ochre of the primer coat that we put in the previous steps proud. We will use gasoline in a cotton tow or a steel wool wrapped in cotton wool in this way. Both will work. We put some gasoline in a clean container. We take a piece of the cotton tow and immerse it in gasoline. Next, we cause a simulation more or less of this distance. Repeat this in the other sides of the frame. To protect each imitation gold leaf and the effect on the finish that we have just done on the frame, a transfer coat must be applied. It can be acrylic or lacquer. We will apply an oil-based acrylic to avoid damage on the golden surface, as we explained on the example of the other frame. Unlike the previous frame, this effect would not have been achieved if we had first protected the imitation gold leaf. We wait for it to dry. Now, to give it a finish, we can use the same mixtures that we made with the previous frame. Or create another shade by making a mixture of the oil-based ochre burnt, oil-based black, and turpentine or oil-based wood stain. The mixture can be modified by adding turpentine and a very small amount of oil-based black. If we see that the tone is not the indicated, mix and test the tone on the frame. We will use this mixture. All the aforementioned mixtures can also be referred to as patinas. Apply the mixture to our entire frame with a cotton tow, which we will wet slightly. To lighten the intensity of the solution or patina, pass a clean cotton tow across the surface of the frame. We let the stain act by letting it dry. You can also add a small amount of turpentine to the cotton tow and then pass it over the frame. This step is optional because if you think your frame has the perfect tone, you can skip it. Step 7. Protection and sealing of the surface with lacquer or acrylic. It is time to protect each imitation gold leaf and the effect we did on the finishing of our frames. For this, we will use a camel brush and lacquer. This will seal all the work we have done on the surface of our 8 by 10 inch picture frame. We apply the lacquer gently across the surface, trying not to have excess in our brush. We let it dry. In the 16 by 20 inch picture frame, we have to perform the same operation to protect the golden surface, and the effect performed with a clear oil-based paint. So we can use lacquer, spray lacquer or acrylic. We will apply lacquer on spray. The more sealer coats of lacquer or acrylic you apply, the more your frame will be protected. That will depend on the humidity condition on your location. There are very humid places in which it is recommended that you apply more than one sealer coat to prevent damage or oxidation on the imitation gold leaf. Now we will make an application of lacquer by brush, to which we will use lacquer, a container, a camel brush, or a cotton tow. This example illustrates how to protect your frame by applying lacquer with a brush. Take the brush and soak it in the lacquer, then drain a little and apply a thin surface. We can also use a cotton wool to apply the lacquer. Remember, you can protect the golden surface and the effect performed either by using a spray lacquer, as in the previous example, or applying a lacquer with a brush or cotton wool. We show you both, so you have an idea of which one to use. We continue the application by brush. In the final coat, it is important to use a lacquer, since it is the specialized paint to give a beautiful finish. We're done! Our 16 by 20 inch picture frame is finished. Observe the beauty of the imitation gold leaves. It should be noted that the leaf is an oxidizable metal, so it should be protected with any clear oil-based paint. In this video, we combined lacquers and oil-based acrylics, as an example that we can use both. It is recommended to use a lacquer or shiny varnish, as they tend to leave a more beautiful and elegant finish. Optional. Step 8. Final effect application. If you want to give your frame a special touch, we will make a mixture of water-based matte acrylic paint. Water-based black universal tint, burnt ochre, ochre and some yellow tint. This mixture is also called medium. First, we mix the matte acrylic paint with some burnt ochre universal tint. We put a drop of yellow universal tint. A little more burnt ochre. Let's mix it. We compared with the frame. Apply a little more burnt ochre to make a little contrast and mix. Compare it. It's turning brown. Now, we are going to take a droplet of black and mix it again. See how it turns grayish? The mixture is ready. Now, we put the preparation in a dispenser like this. We apply in this way a very thin line. Let me show you. We continue with the rest of the frame, and we continue through the areas where we want to see an antique effect on the frame. If the medium drips, remove the excess with a cotton wool with water. This step as done at the end, the paint must be matte, since its function is to provide an opaque matte finish, contrary to the process of the final step that the coat can give it a shiny aspect.